Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In the small town of Maplewood, a place where everyone knew each other's names and secrets, the tranquility was shattered one fateful morning. The sound of sirens pierced the early morning fog that cloaked the streets as the body of 27-year-old Clara McKenzie was discovered in her apartment. The incident sent ripples through the tight-knit community, leaving them grappling with fear and uncertainty. Clara was a beloved member of the town, known for her infectious laughter and kind heart. She worked as a librarian, spending her days immersed in books and mentoring children in the local reading program. Friends described her as a gentle soul who always put others first, but that kindness was about to be overshadowed by suspicion and intrigue. Detective Samuel Hayes was the first officer on the scene. As he stepped through the door, the sight before him was chilling. Clara lay sprawled on the living room floor, her once vibrant presence now a haunting memory. A nearby book lay open, pages fluttering like the remnants of a life cut short. A cursory glance revealed no signs of forced entry, but the apparent lack of struggle suggested a more sinister story lurking just beneath the surface. The community buzzed with speculation as news spread, tightening the noose of uncertainty around Maplewood. Friends and family gathered, eyes wide with confusion, while whispers slithered through the street. Who would want to hurt a girl so full of life? And why? The questions swirled like autumn leaves, tranquil on the surface, but hiding the turbulent winds beneath. It was only the beginning of a mystery that would consume the lives of many. The victim. Clara McKenzie was a woman with dreams as vast as the library shelves she roamed. Raised in Maplewood, she had always been the epitome of warmth and compassion. A beacon of light. She was not just a librarian, she was a storyteller, a confidant, and a friend. Her days were spent surrounded by the comforting smell of aged paper and whispers of adventure lurking among the pages. As friends remembered Clara in the wake of her tragic death, a portrait emerged. Emily, her closest friend, recalled their evenings spent reading side by side, often indulging in discussions of plot twists and character developments for hours. She understood people, Emily said, her voice shaking. Clara had this uncanny ability to see beyond the covers, to the people within. She was an empath, and that's why we loved her so much. However, as the investigation unfolded, another side of Clara's life began to surface, fragments of a struggle she had been grappling with that few knew about. Reports indicated that Clara had recently broken off a toxic relationship with someone from outside Maplewood. The breakup had been tumultuous, characterized by emotional upheaval and secrets that left marks on her spirit. Detective Hayes took notes during his conversations with Clara's friends and family. He could sense the cracks forming in their serene facade. Clara's reluctance to divulge details about her ex floated like a shadow above their fond memories. Fear crept into their story-shushed whispers about late-night phone calls, eerie messages, and a suffocating possessiveness that Clara had fought to escape. The image of Clara grew complex, a vibrant woman ensnared by the scars of past love, igniting questions of how this darkness may have woven itself into the fabric of her life. It seemed as though the answers they sought were hidden between the lines of each memory, waiting to be uncovered as the investigation deepened. The town's sorrow morphed slowly into suspicion, and even the warmest of recollections began to carry the weight of doubt. The crime scene. As the morning light broke through the windows of Clara's apartment, illuminating what was left of her vibrant world, Detective Samuel Hayes stepped into the unsettling scene. The living room bore the unsettling stillness of a sanctuary turned into a tableau of violence. Clara lay lifeless on the floor, her body surrounded by remnants of a life that had once thrived within these walls. The vibrant pastel walls now accentuated the grisly reality of her last moments. Detective Hayes noted the position of the furniture at coffee table tipped over. A chair pushed aside as if Clara had made an attempt to flee or defend herself. Clara's favorite book, Pride and Prejudice, lay open nearby, pages creased and stained, a silent witness to the horror that transpired. The scent of freshly brewed coffee lingered, lingering like a cruel joke on her final morning. Hayes knelt beside Clara's body, examining the scene with keen eyes. The coroner had already determined that Clara had suffered blunt force trauma, marking the head as the primary point of injury. A single blow, precise and brutal. It suggested familiarity rather than an act of random violence. Whoever had committed this crime had likely been close to her. As he scrutinized the area, Hayes noticed a small detail that seemed out of place: a broken window in the adjacent kitchen. Glass lay scattered on the floor, reflecting the sunlight like fractured memories. It wasn't shattered from the outside, which led him to believe it may have been smashed during a frantic struggle rather than a point of entry. Forensic teams swiftly began documenting the scene, their presence a reminder of the reality unfolding. Yellow tape marked the boundaries of a tragedy that blurred the line between safety and vulnerability. Clara's friends and family, gathered outside the apartment block, waited anxiously. Each mirrored expression of despair echoed the same thought. How could this happen here, in a town where everything felt safe? The town of Maplewood was left grappling with the grisly truth. They had to prepare for the revelation that their quiet life had been fractured. With each piece of evidence collected, Hayes felt the weight of distrust settle over the community, marking the beginning of a journey into darkness where secrets would soon begin to unravel. The early investigation. In the days following Clara's shocking death, the air in Maplewood grew dense with tension. Detective Samuel Hayes and his partner, Officer Rachel Moreno, wasted no time in gathering leads, knowing they had to act quickly in a case that was evolving from tragedy to an unsettling mystery. The sun beat down on the small town, contrasting the chilling whispers that floated through its streets. Their first stop was Clara's work Maplewood Public Library, where hushed conversations fell silent as they entered. Employees and patrons alike were gripped by the tragedy. Clara's boss, Mrs. Jenkins, her face drawn with grief, was unable to hold back her tears. She spoke of Clara's dedication and the joy she brought to the library, but there was more behind her sorrow. Clara had apparently expressed fears about someone from her past. She mentioned a man who wouldn't leave her alone, Mrs. Jenkins revealed, her voice trembling. I thought she was just going through a rough patch. I didn't realize her eyes filled with regret as she wrung her hands. Do you have a name? Hayes pressed gently, the instinct to connect the dots igniting within him. Travis, she replied quietly. Travis Lane. He came in a few times after they broke up. I thought he just wanted closure, but I don't know. This piece of the puzzle sparked urgency within Hayes and Moreno. They wasted no time in locating Travis Lane, a man whose name had slipped into the shadowy corners of Clara's life. His former colleagues described him as passionate yet volatile, a man who struggled with rejection. The picture painted by those who knew him hinted at a dangerous obsession, a recipe for disaster. The investigative team decided to pay Travis a visit. As they approached his studio apartment on the outskirts of town, uncertainty rippled through the air. They knocked, listening for movement beyond the door. When it creaked open, the face that met them surprised them. A disheveled man, deep-set eyes darting nervously, exuded a tension that matched the aura hanging over Maplewood. Hayes knew then that they might be staring directly into the storm that had claimed Clara's life. Whatever story Travis had to tell could either bring clarity or lead them further down a darkened path. The dead ends. The meeting with Travis Lane had not gone as Detective Hayes hoped. The trembling man seemed shocked, but not entirely surprised by Clara's death. He claimed to be heartbroken over the news, insisting that he had no part in her demise. With unkempt hair and wild eyes, he told them about late-night phone calls from Clara, trailing off as if he couldn't quite grasp what the aftermath of their relationship had wrought. "Clara and Second loved her," Travis exclaimed. "I was just trying to get her back. I didn't hurt her. I swear." His frantic emotions felt genuine, but Hayes harbored a nagging doubt. There was something unsettling about the way he spoke, as if he was desperate to distance himself from the unraveling truth. After a few hours of interrogation, the detectives left with an abundance of questions, but a distinct lack of answers. Their next step would involve piecing together Clara's final days, an exhausting pursuit that opened wider wounds in the already grieving community. The investigation began to stall. Interviews with friends led only to dead ends, each claiming ignorance about any specific threats. Clara's colleagues had little more to offer than vague suspicions and sympathy. The library felt haunted by her absence, the laughter of children and rustle of pages slipping into an eerie silence. Surveillance footage from the library showed Clara leaving alone on the last Friday she was seen alive, a haunting image of a woman walking into a night that would take her. The detectives found nothing unusual in the grainy recording, a solitude that felt more tragic than comforting. Their inquiry into Clara's social media revealed friends who found snippets of troubling online messages, vague threats that felt more like cryptic riddles. Yet, tracking down those responsible proved elusive. The digital maze led them in circles, slipping through their fingers like smoke. With every attempt to connect the threads, their frustration mounted. The absence of clear leads created an unsettling atmosphere in the precinct. Tension simmering as questions circled like vultures. The sense of urgency ramped up when the community expressed mounting fear. They were not just mourning Clara, but grappling with the reality that a predator lurked in their midst, cloaked beneath the guise of normalcy. As Hayes and Moreno stood in the office reviewing their notes, they faced the stark truth. Sometimes it felt easier to uncover a killer among shadows than to find the light igniting the path toward justice in the face of insurmountable dead ends. A break in the case. Weeks had turned into a relentless cycle of dead ends and dwindling hope. But the landscape of the investigation suddenly shifted when a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A local bartender named Sam, who worked at the Rusty Nail, an establishment known for its dive atmosphere and regular clientele, contacted Hayes with a sense of urgency ringing in his voice. "I overheard something," Sam said, leaning across the bar as if to whisper a secret. "A couple of guys were talking about Clara and Travis last week. They seemed intense, you know. like they were scared that Travis had gone too far. The detective's heart quickened with possibility as they arranged to meet in person. Sam described how he'd recognized one of the guys as Tyler Cummings, a known associate of Travis from his university days. The very name echoed in Hayes' mind as he remembered Travis mentioning a close friendship with him during their earlier interviews. Under the flickering neon lights of the bar, Sam recounted a night filled with slurred words and uneasy laughter. According to him, Tyler had expressed frustration with Travis, insinuating he was a mess for letting Clara slip away. Another bar patron had commented that Travis needed to be careful that Clara might break him if she moved on for good. Armed with this new lead, Hayes and Moreno paid a visit to Tyler's home. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the yard. When they knocked, Tyler opened the door reluctantly, eyes narrowed in suspicion. He was disheveled, just barely out of bed, and the remnants of a hangover draped over him like a suffocating blanket. The detectives wasted little time, pressing him about his connection to Travis and Clara. As they carefully navigated the conversation, Tyler's facade began to crack, revealing a volatile mix of fear and anger towards both his friends. "Man, you don't get it," Tyler said, nervously running a hand through his hair. Travis was losing it over Clara. He thought she was cheating on him or something. I warned him to just let her go, but he didn't listen. Detective Hayes leaned in, heart racing at the prospect of finally hearing the truth. "Did you see Travis the night Clara was killed?" he asked, searching Tyler's face for the faintest hint of guilt or insight. Tyler hesitated, then muttered, "I don't know what happened that night, but I know Travis was in a bad place, and he blamed Clara." As they left Tyler's apartment, the weight of his words sank in. For the first time, Detective Hayes felt the narrative shifting, leading them deeper into the darkness surrounding Clara's death. Uncertainty still loomed like a specter, but the fragility of Tyler's confession felt like a fragile thread, pulling them closer to the truth that promised to shake Maplewood to its core. The suspect, armed with new information, Detective Hayes and Officer Moreno returned to the station, urgency revitalizing their steps. In the dim light of the precinct, they reviewed their notes on Travis Lane in juxtaposition to Tyler Cummings' statements. The pieces of this grim puzzle appeared to align, and clarity began to unfurl. Within hours, they confirmed that Tyler had been seen with Travis at the Rusty Nail on the night Clara had died. Their alibi remained shaky. Two men weaving a fabric of despair over their fallen friend. But why had Tyler's protective instincts failed to shield Clara from Travis's consuming obsession? The more they uncovered, the more the notion of Travis as a desperately obsessed figure solidified, casting a heavy shadow over his alibi. As the sun dipped low again, Detective Hayes decided it was time to confront Travis. He found him sitting in a dimly lit diner, the weariness evident in the deep lines etched on his face as he stirred his coffee, absent-mindedly. Hayes approached, his footsteps deliberate, each step drawing him closer to a confrontation that could shatter the silence surrounding Clara's death. "Travis," Hayes began, his tone steady, "we need to talk about the night Clara died." The diner was quiet, the clinking of silverware creating a tense soundtrack to the unfolding drama. Travis looked up, his eyes clouded with confusion and defense. "I already told you everything. I wasn't there. But there was a tremor in his voice that caught Hayes's attention. A crack that hinted at deeper fears lurking just beneath the surface. "People are talking," Hayes pressed, leaning in slightly. "They're saying you were with Tyler that night, and that you had an argument about Clara. What happened?" Travis shifted uncomfortably, the pallor of sweat starting to show on his temples. "We were just drinking. I swear. We talked about her. But I didn't do anything." His hands shook as he clutched his coffee cup tighter. "Did she threaten to move on with someone else?" Hayes asked carefully, knowing the words could unleash emotions he needed to use to his advantage. Travis's face paled, the truth seeping out like blood through a wound. "She was happy. I was losing her, man. But I'd never hurt her." A flicker of something fear, rage, vulnerability passed through Travis as his defenses crumbled. The weight of guilt hung heavy in the air, and for a brief moment, Hayes thought he could see the reality breaking through the chaotic layers of Travis's mind. The detective's instinct told him they were standing on the precipice of something important, but the truth remained shrouded in ambiguity. As they left the diner, Moreno and Hayes exchanged glances, each feeling the tightening knot of suspicion tightening around Travis. The pieces were coming into focus, yet a deeper darkness loomed on the horizon. The illusion of safety that enveloped Maplewood was quick to vanish, leaving the community teetering on the edge of collective horror. The hunt for justice was far from over, and they were determined to illuminate the secrets lurking in the shadows of Clara's tragic end. The trial, months of investigation, culminated in a courtroom filled with tension and anticipation. The trial of Travis Lane for the murder of Clara McKenzie had turned into one of the most discussed cases in Maplewood's history. Onlookers gathered daily, brimming with a mix of morbid curiosity and vicarious sorrow, while Clara's family sat in silence, their grief palpable as they prepared for the truth to once more invade their lives. Detective Hayes sat among the spectators, his presence a constant reminder of the relentless pursuit of justice. Marauding questions filled the air, a swirl of hearsay and heartache, as the prosecution painted a vivid picture of a relationship rife with obsession and despair. Prosecutor Linda Grant stood confidently before the jury, her voice steady but resonant with conviction. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, "this case is not merely about a tragic end, but a history of obsession that escalated into murder." A series of photographs showcasing Clara's vibrant life flickered on the screen behind Hera's smile. "Here." A laugh shared their fragile moments that belied the brutality that had taken place. The narrative progressed, each piece of evidence meticulously laid out. The jury listened intently as witnesses recounted their experiences with Clara and Travis, some describing Travis's volatile temperament. Tyler Cummings's testimony hung heavily in the air, his coded language revealing that he knew more than he'd admitted earlier. However, the defense, led by the seasoned attorney James Calhoun, quickly sought to unravel the prosecution's case. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story constructed from hearsay and assumption," he argued, brow furrowed as he turned to the jury. "There is no concrete evidence linking my client directly to the crime scene. A life was taken, yes, but in our search for answers, we must be vigilant, for the truth is seldom clear." Despite the defense's efforts, the prosecution's case flowed smoothly, leaving few avenues for doubt. The air shimmered with hope and trepidation as testimonies poured forth, including Clara's mother, who stood trembling at the stand. Her voice cracked as she detailed the vibrant daughter she had raised her life, her passions. Travis's demeanor shifted. Once a defiant rawness, he appeared haggard and defeated, his hollow eyes searching for solace that would never come. Finally, both sides rested their cases, leaving the jury to deliberate. Hours turned into an agonizing wait, each tick of the clock reverberating through the courtroom. Detective Hayes sat at the edge of his seat, a mixture of anxiety and hardened resolve coursing through him. The ghost of Clara McKenzie loomed large in the space, a lingering spirit demanding recognition of her existence in the face of tragedy. When the jury's verdict was announced, silence enveloped the room. We find the defendant, Travis Lane, guilty of second-degree murder. Gasps echoed throughout the courtroom as tears streamed down Clara's family's faces, a bittersweet triumph for Justice Gion that would resonate in the hearts of Maplewood's residents for years to come. As Travis was led away, Hayes felt a flicker of relief alongside the sorrow surrounding Clara's memory. The trial had brought an end to a chapter, but the story of Clara McKenzie would linger on, reminding everyone that the pursuit of justice is often painted in shades of gray, peppered with humanity's deepest complexities. The aftermath? The sentencing of Travis Lane marked a somber turning point for Maplewood. The community, once steeped in the comforting embrace of familiarity, now wrestled with the enduring echoes of loss and the permanence of trauma. The streets, once a backdrop for playful laughter and friendly chats, felt stripped of their innocence, struggling to absorb the harsh reality that lay beneath their surface. Clara's memorial took place 2 weeks after the verdict, an occasion meant to honor her life while navigating the heavy mound of grief that clung to the air. The library, her sanctuary, held a vigil adorned with sunflower favors. Mementos filled the room. Photographs of a smiling Clara, snippets from letters she wrote to kids, and pieces of her artwork, delicately displayed as if attempting to bridge the gap between memories and loss. Friends and family gathered, sharing stories of hope entwined with profound sadness. Mrs. Jenkins read a passage from one of Clara's favorite books, her voice faltering as she recited lines that echoed the essence of Clara's spirit. "It is a truth universally acknowledged," she began, but found herself pausing, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. The community embraced her, offering not just condolences, but promises to carry Clara's legacy forward in their own lives. Detective Hayes attended, having watched the case unfold from the inside out. The burden of responsibility rested heavy on his shoulders. Questions about what he could have done differently lingered. Yet, as he listened to the heartfelt reminiscences, an understanding began to settle in. Clara's story would not end with her death. It would ripple through the community, sparking change and prompting discussions around the dangers of toxic relationships. In the following months, Maplewood turned tragedy into momentum. Community workshops were organized, focusing on recognizing signs of unhealthy relationships and fostering discussions about mental health. Communities opened dialogues that had long been shrouded in silence, imparting lessons that would resonate through generations. Schools implemented programs that emphasized empathy and emotional intelligence, weaving Clara's story into their curriculum as a reminder that kindness and connection could serve as powerful antidotes to dark. But healing was not linear. The scars left behind by Clara's murder lingered. Night walks felt different, and familiar laughter transformed into hesitant smiles. There were moments when the specter of fear crept back into their lives, but the strength forged through shared grief also ignited resilience. Detective Hayes found himself lingering in the library, surrounded by shelves that had once been filled with Clara's laughter. And among the books sat a tree planted in her honor, a living testament to her impact on the town. As he traced his fingers over its bark, he pondered the fragility of life and the deep-rooted connections that thrive in the wake of loss. He realized the importance of every story, and as Clara's legacy unfolded through the community, he vowed to remain vigilant in honoring her memory by ensuring that no voice is left unheard in a world that often forgets too easily. In this atmosphere of rebirth, a glimmer of hope. Maplewood would not forget Clara McKenzie. Her story echoed through every heart, whispering reminders of the resilience found when a community unites, determined to stand strong against the shadows lurking in the corners of life. Reflection. It had been a year since Clara's tragic death, a full cycle marked by darkness and resilience in Maplewood. Seasonal changes painted the landscape, yet the heart of the town remained tethered to that day in September when innocence was stripped away. Detective Hayes often found himself reflecting on the case, haunted by questions that refused to fade. Each morning he'd walk the familiar route past the library, where children still gathered to lose themselves in stories, their laughter mingling with the air, a bittersweet reminder of what had been lost. He revisited the complexities of Clara's life, her kindness, the love she shared, and the shadows that crept into her world, leaving a somber imprint on all who knew her. The details of the investigation had constructed walls of knowledge, insights into a tangled web that led to her tragic fate. Yet clarity often eluded him. Through reflection, Hayes understood the importance of community and the scars left by trauma. The trial had brought justice, yet it was the communal embrace of grief that fostered healing. Clara's influence lingered beyond her death, igniting a passion for change throughout Maplewood, encouraging dialogues about mental health and relationship dynamics that had once been considered taboo. As he sat in a quiet corner of the library, watching children pore over books, Hayes became acutely aware of the responsibility that lay in honoring Clara's memory. This vigil, this commitment to remember and remind others of her spirit, became a guiding light, not just for him, but for every resident of Maplewood. In the midst of sorrow, he found solace. A quiet resolve to dedicate his life to protecting the vulnerable and amplifying the silenced voice. He knew that while the shadows may linger, the strength forged through loss could one day illuminate even the darkest paths. Clara's story, imbued with both tragedy and hope, would forever inspire a community that refused to forget.